Welcome to Assisted Living Facility Rookie. My name is Carl Cuesta. I have a very special guest today, Miss Amanda Bailey. Can you tell? Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Can you
A
tell
good
us about
interruption in
yourself?
my day.
Yeah, great, great, great. Can you tell us about yourself, Miss Amanda?
Yeah. A lot like a lot of people, I entered this industry because I had a parent who needed care at one point.
Mhm.
Um, it was my mother. She had Alzheimer's, dementia of the Alzheimer's type, if you want to be specific. Hers was real fast moving. I was young at the time. She it it didn't last very long. She died within about 3 years of her diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
Um, but I learned a lot. We got lucky as a family, and I didn't realize it at the time how lucky we got at times. But at the end of the day, we absolutely ran across just the right people at the right times for the right things, and it. My mom didn't really linger, and that was a blessing. We lost her early, which was not a blessing, but a blessing for her. And after she passed, I kind of felt that I felt a tugging to do something. I felt like, it's such a helpless disease for the people that watch their loved one with it, that I felt like I needed to do something. And so I live in a western suburb of the Houston area, and I started a memory walk, the Alzheimer's Memory Walk out here in my town. And it's going on its 20th year now, which
Wow,
is kind of cool,
congratulations.
which is
Wow.
really cool because it was really literally just me and some of my friends who had been touched by this disease. And we wanted to help and have an impact with families that were going through the same thing that we had gone through or were going through. And so there was a group of about five of us that started it. We added some people over the years, but we ran it for about 5 years and then turned it over to the Alzheimer's Association. And
Mhm.
it's still a great walk to this day. It's well attended. It raises lots of money and awareness and provides that grief outlet, which is what I was always looking for,
Mhm.
for the families. And but in the second year of the walk, we there was a small 16 bed memory care facility being built in the town where I live, and it was kind of new back then. It was kind of first of its kind, at least where I lived. It was, and it was designed to look like a home in a neighborhood, but it was a commercial building. Um, and we reached out to them and said, "Hey, we'd love to have y'all be part of the walk, if you're interested in coming." And they're like, "Well, we're not even open yet, but we're
Ah,
about to open our one over in the Copperfield area. Could you come, would y'all like to come to the open house?" And forgive me. um, when when they did that, I walked about 3 steps through the door and I was like, "Oh, where was this when I needed it? This was what I was looking for."
oh,
It was,
wow.
very homey, but very nicely done. My mom had excellent care at the end of her life, but it was far from me. It wasn't close by. So I
Mhm.
had, I would spend my Saturdays, after all the kids stuff that I did, to get in the car and go see her. And, 2 hour round trip plus, spending 30 minutes with her. That was about all I could do.
Two
And
hours. Wow. That's a long time.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
well, it's Houston,
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't
true.
take
That's
long
true.
to do 2 hours, but
Mhm.
you don't have to go very far. But anyway, so I didn't think much about him. And excuse me, I want to go into a coughing fit. I didn't think much about him after that, but they reached out to me and asked me if I would speak at their open house for their location that was opening in my town. And I accepted, although I had never done any public speaking at all. um, and I said some things, and I have no idea what I said that day. But I remember leaving there going, "Oh, wow, I really love this. I love this place. I love the people that own it. I got to meet some of the residents that were moving in. And
Mhm.
about 3 months later, the marketer for them was leaving. She was moving out of town because her husband got transferred. And I just kind of raised my hand and I said, "Hey, I have got zero experience, but I have a real passion for what y'all are doing. Would you consider hiring me?" And they hired me.
That's
So
amazing.
that was my first job in senior living. And that was about 18 years ago. So I've been around for a little while now. I did marketing for them for about 6 years. They built that same concept. They kind of built it all around the city of Houston. So I kind of got to know different areas, which was really kind of nice and interesting. And when I did that, I started kind of seeing my true talents and I guess where my skills really lied
Mhm.
was the families, and that's where I resonated was the families because I've been that family member before, and I know what it feels like to walk that journey, and
Firsthand experience, that's
it's
the.
just it was devastating and
Mhm.
so I always kind of like my heart always tugged at that family because I know how that feels. I love the residents, don't get me wrong, because they were wonderful, and I have
Mhm.
some great stories over the years of some really amazing people that I've met, but the families always kind of tugged at my heart because I knew what they were going through. I watched my dad, watched my mom deteriorate, and just the pain of watching somebody else that how deeply he loved her, and
Mhm.
watching that was very painful. And so I would see that. I decided to step into operations, and so I moved into the executive director role for a couple of companies. I actually built two buildings from the dirt to residents. So I went through state licensing surveys and putting together all of the regs, policies and procedures in order for the regulations to meet the regulations, and hiring the staff and training the staff and getting it all up and operating and things like that. I've been through hurricanes and
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
you know
Floods.
like giving my chef finally an evening off during a 3-day stay at the building, and stepping into the kitchen and cooking dinner for the residents and so forth. And so so many stories over the years that have just really, I think it's it really resonated with me, and it really built me and created this passion that I have for helping the residents and their families. About 5 years ago, I stepped out of a building to go to work in hospice,
Mhm.
which I loved. I absolutely loved. It was actually, I worked in hospice during the COVID years, which was kind of interesting, and I learned a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, it became a different animal at that point.
Yeah, because
Hospice
how do you
was,
see?
well, hospice was one of the few that was allowed into buildings.
Huh.
And because we had to go in, we had the nurses had to see the people still. I always said I know it was COVID, but people still passed away from just the
Mhm.
progression of their disease and for no other reason. We still had people on service for congestive heart failure and COPD and dementia, and it was just the progression of their disease. So an interesting time for sure.
Mhm.
About 2 years ago, I started, well, almost exactly, it's February of 2022. I started my own company doing placement services. As I kind of talked to people and looked around, and I was like, I had done this forever. I've lived out in the area where I live for over 30 years. And being that I started the memory walk out here, I've run buildings out here. My friends would call me and say, "Hey, my friend Patty needs your help. Can you help her? She needs to place her mom in a facility." Sure, sure, sure. Give her, tell her to give me a call. So I did
Mhm.
that for years, free of charge, just helping out friends and
That's
helping out my
awesome.
community. And so I decided to step off and make it a business. And that's what I did 2 years ago. And my husband, who was 25 years as a pharmaceutical rep, went through a layoff with his company. It had changed hands, and changed hands, and they did a massive layoff. And so he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna come to work with you." And I'm like, "Well,
Do
how
you
are we
have
gonna
to?
live?" And he's like, "We'll make it. We'll make it." So his optimism has seen us through for sure.
That's good though. Like, I can see the
Uh-oh. Oh dear.
what's going on here.
Oh, you there?
I don't know if you see me.
I don't see you right now. Hmm, see me, and I don't like it. Oh my gosh, I lost you. Mm, I should put one of these in my. Okay, we're back.
I'm so sorry. I
That's
don't know
okay. We're back.
what's going on here.
I don't know
Yeah.
either.
But I was just saying that like it's good to see like to me it seems like the right person in the right positions, like you have the right heart, you had something that was important to you. You
Hmm.
got into it and
Hmm.
then you're helping people to deal and you kind of lessen the burden, I guess.
You know, and there's a lot of there's I will say that most people that I have run into that get into doing placement services, consulting and advising with families, they've had some kind of personal connection to it, and it has driven a passion in them. I
Mm,
think, from what I can tell, and it's not everybody, but my unique perspective of that is I I went on and ran buildings, and
mm,
I really feel like this is a differentiation for me personally. But
mm.
having been that person who staffed a building, answered to surveyors when they came in to do surveys, which is a big one.
For free?
um, yeah, answer the families about the care that's being provided. Day in, day out, run the building. Getting things, making sure the residents have their meals on time, the engagements happening. Being that person that sat in that seat is a perspective that not many have that
Mhm,
go on and do. A lot of them stay in it. I personally, it's an all consuming job.
mhm,
I have deep respect for my friends and people I know that are still executive directors and have done it for years and years and years, because you don't turn things off. You don't go home and the phone doesn't ring. I mean, the phone rings at 3 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes you get up and go to the building at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Whew.
Yeah, and it can, for me personally, I loved it, but at the same time, I needed a break from it. And that's what I always say. My husband said, "Yeah, you took a break and you went to work for hospice." I know, but hospice is a wonderful gift to give people. So it really, truly is. And it's a very rewarding place to be. But it can be it can consume you if you're not careful.
So, like, in terms of like where you fit in the assisted living facility puzzle,
Hmm.
you're doing placements for assisted
Hmm.
living facilities, but
Hmm.
you also have your own hospice agency. Is that what I'm
No,
getting?
no, no, no. I don't work in hospice anymore. No,
Mhm.
I don't work in hospice. I just do placement services. I'm kind of in my lane, of I just do placement services. Now, a lot of times I get phone calls from families that they're really not looking for placement right away. So I try to keep all my resources as fresh as possible. I keep my ear to the ground on
Hmm.
this company or that company, or what's going on here, who's, has it changed over management there, and should they need a home care company, I'll send them some resources and say, here, call these three companies and get pricing from them and that sort of thing. Or they are looking for hospice. Okay, well, here's the three hospices I really like, but
Hmm.
obviously it's freedom of choice on as far as that's concerned. But if you want my advice, here it is, kind of thing. So I probably do more free work than I do actual things I get paid for. But that's okay. And I'm okay with that. After being in the industry for 18 years and, bumping into a few people, I feel like it's something I can share, and I'm okay with that.
That's good though. I mean, I feel like, no good deed, goes
Un, un,
un, unrewarded at the end.
unrewarded. That's it. Well, it's funny you say that, because our motto with our company, it's on my website. It says, "Do good and good will follow." And
Huh.
I actually have it on the back of my business cards.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So, and that, we really truly believe that. And we do have a vision for wanting to, fundamentally change how this industry takes care of people. Is
Mhm.
sometimes it ventures off, and you get these players that they don't do quite the right thing all the time. But I'm pretty determined that I would like to provoke some change in this industry to
Mhm.
really, that person-centered care was such a tag word for several years ago, and I'm not quite sure I understand exactly what that means, nor do I think a lot of people who throw that term out there know exactly what it means.
Mhm.
But keeping that resident at the forefront of everything you do. The first company I ever worked for used to say, and I used to say it in my buildings all the time: residents first, tasks second. You know,
It's true.
residents come first. If it's sitting and holding Miss Jones' hands because she's having a bad day and she's briefly remembered that her husband has passed away, sit and hold her hand.
Mhm.
I don't, the laundry will get done. And those are the kind of things that I hope to happen, and I hope by my little piece of it, my little corner of what I do, I'm helping those families find those kind of facilities that match what their loved one needs, whether
Mhm.
it's in location, whether it's cost, and whether it's care. Those are my three biggies that I try to match them up with. And but I mean, I'm just over here in one little corner, but I hope I can have an impact from my little corner.
Yeah, I kind of have the impression that, you've really built this caring kind of culture instead of just like
I hope
for
so.
the money, like
I
this,
hope so. Yeah.
I've a couple of people that I've met, are like that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that assisted living. I want to be
Hmm.
that place that, someone comes to and feels homey. They smell the food,
Yeah.
they feel
Yeah.
comfortable, that's
Well, they see happy people.
yeah, they see happy
Yeah.
people. So,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things that, attracted me to the assisted living facility that, we're about to acquire because we saw a handful um before we bought that one. And a lot of them kind of like the three that I saw had like the same kind of look to it, like a dark kind of
Yeah.
stagnant
Yeah.
feel feel
Yeah.
to it. I don't
Oh,
know.
droopy.
Yeah. And then when we saw this one, um, it had like a very like it had a lot of natural light. It was very bright. But there was like people like it's a simple thing to hear, but like people are actually
Mhm.
talking and like, like hanging out. And I was like, oh wow, this is different
This is
compared
awesome.
to
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah. They
great.
were, they weren't just living, they were thriving.
Yeah, that's right. They
Yeah.
were thriving. So I
Hmm.
was like, this
Hmm.
is this is the kind of place that I like. Maybe it was maybe it was because the previous owner was also like doing everything was so like it was her life basically, it was their
Yeah.
life. So I think that's why it was so nice. And one of the things you want to do is definitely continue that kind of care. And if I can think of it as a legacy, this legacy
Yeah.
that she built over the past 10 years, we want to build on that. And
That's wonderful. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that puts her heart at ease. You know, I'm just
Mhm.
not. I'm sure if you, I mean, it's like taking the baby that you birthed and saying, okay, you after X amount of years, okay, you can go, you can now take care of my baby for me, and that's tough.
Mhm.
You
We
know.
physically I never realized about these assisted living facilities that it's very like hush hush the sale of them.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I never realized that. It's
I guess they're afraid that the families would get nervous and move out or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
like they're scared of like the family's moving out or like the employees leaving because they're scared
Yeah.
they're scared of the
New
new
management.
owners,
Yeah.
but we just assured her that like, hey, assured her like, hey, we're not we're not cash people,
Yeah.
I'm a nurse practitioner. My other partner is a home health owner and my
Nice.
broker, so we're
Nice.
like, yeah, yeah, money's good, but we do care about the people. This
Mm-hmm.
is yeah, I worked at like a homeless clinic for like 5 years, as a nurse
Mm-hmm.
practitioner making nothing basically. Like,
Yeah.
I love people. So I want to bring that love as well into the more vulnerable people as well in terms of the aging population. So that's
Yeah. And I used to tell my staff, like, I know this is your place of business where you work, but this is their home.
hmm
And you have they have a different perspective. And, they it may not be their home that they lived in, but it's their home now.
yeah.
And so you have to be respectful that you're in their home. They're not in
hmm
your place of business.
hmm Exactly.
Yeah.
And you always want to respect their space and
Mm-hmm.
just just like back in my home health days, I yes, it's work, but like this is their kingdom, this is their domain. We want to keep everything the same. You want to respect all their rules and whatever they want to do.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
was the thing. But that's excellent. It's good to hear that. Like
Yeah.
there's people out there like yourself that are doing this.
I enjoy it. I didn't know that I could work with my husband.
Yeah, back to that. So how
Back
did
to
that
that one,
happen?
right? So, it was funny and his skills, I mean, as we kind of, started to kind of look at where do we get our referrals from? Because largely before he joined me, I was getting referrals from everybody I know in the industry, people I'd known
Mhm.
for years. They would call me or they would tell the family, look, I know you're calling around. You're going to just be chasing your tail, calling each facility to find out pricing and everything. Call Amanda. Her services are completely free to the families. The facilities pay my fee. Um, but I can be your advisor. I can be your advocate. Call Amanda. She can help you. And then when he came on, he was like, okay, well, that's all fine and dandy. He said, but I know doctors around town, so I'm going to start focusing on the doctors. And so, and that's made a huge
Yeah.
transformation in our business. I mean, truly, it's like probably my industry connections are our number one referral source, but right behind it is our physicians around the Houston area. But
That's
it's
something I never thought of. That's true. I mean, a bit.
I worked in marketing in this field, and I will say that people call on doctors, but they don't call on doctors like the pharmaceutical industry calls on doctors. It is an absolutely different approach. And he's done it for 25 years. He's done training classes for sales reps on how to do it. You know, he truly knows how to relay a message and how to get it done with physicians. And I, I've called on doctors before, but I didn't do it like he does it. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's different, and that's great. That's fine.
that's excellent.
Yeah,
It was a blessing in disguise that he was let go from his previous company to make you
yeah.
go,
I was expecting him to go get another pharmaceutical job, and he was like, "No, no, no, I'm going to come to work for you." Like,
Yeah.
okay, really? Can we afford that? No, we can't afford it. Okay,
Excellent.
step out in faith.
That's really good. That's really good. So you've been in the industry for almost a
Well,
little
for
bit over
about 18 years. Yep.
18 years, 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would you say is one of the greatest challenges in as a placement coordinator? And then like Is there a solution to it? Are you still trying to find a solution to it?
You know, probably the greatest challenge. Let me think about that one for a minute because, you know, I've never really been an entrepreneur in and of
Mhm.
itself. You know, I worked for other companies. I always felt like I had a very entrepreneurial spirit, and the companies I gravitated to were ones that gave the buildings a lot of autonomy to do, you know, run the buildings the way you wanted to run it, as long as you were within compliance and you were building the census. They didn't care.
Mhm.
So, you know, I kind of, even though I didn't own the building, I felt like I took on ownership of it
Mhm.
because it was, you know, okay, we're going to take care of these residents. We're going to do a good job, you know, kind of thing. But it's all the hats I have to wear as an entrepreneur, kind of still, you know, sales, um, consult, advisor to, and the other day I have a standing desk and I had to fix my standing desk. So I have maintenance. So IT, I jumped off this year and got a CRM. Well, I had to learn how to, they were like, well, if we set it up for you, it'll be $1,200. I'm like, oh, heck no, I'm not spending $1,200 on that. I will set this up. I'm a smart cookie. After a few phone calls back and forth, I finally got it going. But
Excellent.
it's just that it's taken, skills that I have and it's really, kind of expanded them for me. And it's kind of a unique position to be in. Um, I always say entrepreneurship is you're either jumping up and down excited or you're in the fetal position in the corner over there crying.
How am I gonna make it?
What have I done?
Yeah, yeah.
Will I ever get to retire? uh,
Oh.
but it's a journey. It's a fun journey, and I'm enjoying that. And I think that and it absolutely because a lot of people will go into placement services by buying into a franchise. Some may have a little bit of senior living experience, but some may not have any. Maybe they have a real passion for helping people, but they buy into a franchise, which does a lot of the hard work for you.
Mhm.
It gives you the CRM systems. It gives you the accounting systems. It does it does your contracts for you and things like that. I had to do all that myself. So, and I started with nothing. And, I went to some of the bigger players and said, I need a contract. And I'm going to I've started a placement service company and you need to give me a contract. And they did. So, now I've got I think statewide, I have almost 300 contracts,
Wow.
which is great. Starting to kind of expand a little bit into Dallas. I've done my first couple of placements up there as well. So that's kind of fun. So it's just been stretching my abilities. And, I started a company at 56 years old. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Trust me. I feel like I've learned so much. And I'm really, really thankful for that. And I'm kind of glad I did it from scratch because I'm not sure I would have really grown myself as much if I had bought into a franchise or something like that. Plus, that I get to kind of do my own thing. I don't have to answer anybody else.
That's good.
Um, no, and solutions. I mean, I think people need this kind of guidance. I think they need this experienced guidance. You know, I mean, and I only speak from my perspective because I really don't have a perspective of anybody else's. But having, I tell families all the time, I'm really here to pull back the curtain for you and show you, kind of how the assisted living, independent living, memory care world works. Help you, manage some expectations because people don't know, people think they know what to expect, but they really don't. And, if I'm talking to a family and I hear, oh, mom's going to the hospital, mom's going to the hospital, mom's going to the hospital, and she keeps telling me she didn't want to go to the hospital anymore. I mean, I've worked in hospice. That's a we need to talk and we need to have the hospice conversation. And
Mhm.
because I was never afraid of that conversation when I was an executive director, because I had that conversation the day that people moved into my building, whether they were anywhere close to hospice or not, because I never wanted them to be afraid of it. It's a wonderful service with caring, loving people that will really, it's such a great service for the person, and I think quality of life is
Mm,
absolutely impacted by a wonderful hospice service. If they're eligible for it, they should be, and they want to choose quality of life over quantities of days, then I think everybody should deserve to be on hospice. And so I'm pretty passionate about it, and I will tell families that when I'm talking to them, and they were like, "Oh, that's so scary to think she's not dying next week." And no, my own father lived on hospice for a year and 4 months. I've known people to be on hospice for over 3 years.
mhm,
It's not the ideal scenario, and sometimes they come off and go on and go off and come on, and because they don't remain eligible because they improve and they do better. Um, but you, as a nurse practitioner, you've seen this. You know what I'm talking about. The, but I'm not afraid to have those conversations with those
mhm,
families, and so I'm always I feel like I am part of the solution of that, is to kind of demystify that whole thing for them, because I have the experience in running buildings, and because I have worked in hospice and I've had that conversation over and over again with families. I feel like that's something that I uniquely can offer, and I try to do it, in a way that doesn't make it scary for them, and at least, even if they're not ready, it plants the seed that, okay, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, you know. And I think that the more education we can give people, the better off they are at making the decisions that they need to make when they need to make them.
mhm. I totally agree. Like, I do talk to non-medical people about hospice sometimes, and it's the same thing. They say like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
it must be scary. Someone dies. What are you gonna do when someone dies? Well, I was like, well, people die all the time, but we focus
Correct.
more on just making those days that they have just very fulfilling and rich. And if
Correct.
they die tomorrow, okay. If they die a year from now, okay. But at least we know
Yeah. We
every
don't have a whole
single.
lot of control over that piece of it.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
even you and I, we don't know what
No,
days we
we don't
have.
know. No.
So, just all we can do is just really try to really make each day, valuable and treasure it,
Yeah.
and for yourself and for your residents and their patients. So,
And I think because I was only 37 when my mom passed away of Alzheimer's. And
ah,
I think because of that, I have a perspective that, most people 37 still have their parents around. They're still young. They're still involved with them. I mean, I mean,
I'm 37.
my oldest is 34 right now, so, we do things with her and her family all the time, so, um, but that wasn't, I didn't get the advantage of that past being actually past really 35 years old, because she started declining, and
Mhm.
didn't know who we were towards the end. But I think that gives me a unique perspective as well, because you can't take for granted the days that are left, and because you don't know, and so making those days as quality as possible, I think, was always a big passion of mine, for my residents, for my families. And then I stepped off and worked in hospice, because for me, it was a natural thing. If I went out of a building, I'm going to hospice. That's just, there was really no other choice at that point. I didn't even really think about starting a placement service company at the time, which I guess I'm kind of glad I didn't, because COVID ended up rolling out, and that was a whole mess with the buildings, and trying to get somebody moved in was really, really difficult for a while there.
Like, what's your so in terms of as a placement agent, like, what is your like ideal? I guess it's different. Like, what is your ideal like client, and
Hmm.
what is your ideal family member? Like, how does that interaction work? Like, how do
Gosh,
you?
I'll tell you what, everyone is different.
Oh,
Every single one. I will tell you. I mean, I've placed independent living, assisted living, memory care,
mhm,
from from having, $1,500 a month to spend to having $15,000 a month to spend.
Wow.
I've and everything, behaviors, um, sweet little compliant, little ladies, people with, you know, stage 4 wounds that, you have to kind of help them coordinate. Not every place can take somebody with a wound. And if
Mhm.
they do, well, do they have to be on hospice? Do they have to be on home health? Do they, just my knowledge of that piece of it. I get this back from facilities all the time. They said, "Oh my gosh, you understand so much of what we need to coordinate when it comes to a patient like that." I know, I've been there. I have climbed in attics to check on air conditioning units before. I have stepped into the kitchen to clean. I have showered residents before. I have passed medications. The only job I never did in a building was play nurse, and I didn't want to because I'm not qualified. But
Oh my goodness.
I I've seen it. I've done it. I understand it. I know the challenges that assisted livings have in the care that needs to be provided. I'm helping a family right now. As a matter of fact, he needs to move his aunt from Maine.
Mhm.
She's living in assisted living. Her care is too hard up there. Maine has some real tight restrictions on getting into skilled nursing because they don't have a lot of skilled nursings.
Mm.
So, like, you actually have to have an assessment done and you have to qualify for skilled nursing, even if you're private paying.
Wow.
So, yeah, because they don't have enough beds
Mhm.
and they have to hold them open for the people that truly need it. And so I get it, I understand it. But he's like, "Well, won't we have to move her into skilled nursing down here?" I said, "No, that's the beauty part." I said, "We have assisted livings down here that are allowed to staff in a way that they can take a higher level of care. They
Mhm.
can staff with 24-hour nursing in place. So let's look at those options for you because that will make all the difference in the world for her. It's going to be an environment that's, unfortunately, skilled nursing is in such a quandary right now because the staffing situation that they're nationwide that they're in. They can't find enough quality,
Mhm.
qualified staff to come and work in skilled nursing. So, usually in assisted living, the ratios are going to be better. The resident to caregiver ratios are going to be better and more homey like feel, less, like a nursing home kind of setting. So there's a lot of advantages in it, but you've got to know these things, when they tell me she has edema and I'm like, okay, well, how bad is it? Is it a stage 1, 2, 3, or 4? Has, her legs, cracking and splitting a little bit? What are y'all doing to mitigate it? I can ask those questions because I've sat next to wonderful nurses over the years that
Mhm.
have taught me so much that I know what the questions are that need to be asked as far as that's concerned. And so it's not a guessing game as much as it's an educated guessing game when I go to try to make that match.
That's how you work with a family. Like they just tell you they tell you their needs and their
I do. I have a summary form I use. I keep it close by. It's like a summary of assessments.
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so it's a front and back. It's not real detailed, but it's enough to get me asking the questions that I need to ask with
Mhm.
families. And so, um, if I can get through all of that front and back, I've got a real good picture of what it is that they need. And that
Like,
again, that's just from sitting with wonderful nurses over the years while we went and did assessments and watching what they asked and what they did. Can they bear weight? Things like that.
mhm.
They got to bear weight if they want to move into an assisted living. So, those are the kind of questions.
In terms of like let's say for us for our assisted living it closes end of the month and let's say we somebody moves or we lose somebody
Mm-hmm.
um what what would I need to tell you like how would I work with you? Would I say like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah, so I get text messages all day or emails all day from facilities saying, "Hey, Amanda, I have a shared mail room available," you know, and I'll usually reply with, "Have your rates changed? Is there anything?"
Mhm.
Because like I keep a pretty detailed information on each facility that I contract with, what the rates are,
Mhm.
you know. what they specialize in. Can they do higher levels of care? Can they do Hoyer lifts? Can they do
Mhm.
two-person transfers? Things like that. Some of the things that I really need to know about them. And they'll let me know. Okay, yeah, no, it's in January. For January and February. I've been checking this a lot. Every time I need to place somebody, I'm sending an email going, "Did you have rate adjustments yet?" Because it happens every year at this time. And I work really hard, to find out, are you offering any incentives on that room?
Mhm.
Is a shared male room is probably one of the hardest rooms to fill, just because we
Ah,
get more women,
that's true.
and a lot of people like to have private rooms if they can afford it. But are you offering an incentive? Is there anything I can do to entice a family to consider your place? So I try to go back to the families pretty armed with, hey, I know they're doing half price on their community fee this month. You might want to, let's put this one on your list, because that's a great opportunity to get in and save a little bit of money.
Hmm.
So I try to, stay real connected to my buildings that, but a lot of I don't expect them to email me every single time they have an opening. I always check first. I have a conversation with the family. I take down all of the information. I say, okay, I have some thoughts. Let me go check on availability of all the buildings, because, the availability is like the big one. Do they have,
Hmm.
especially when you're talking about a smaller personal care home, you may not have availability, month over month over month, which is a great problem for you to have. But for me, I'm like, oh, dang it. I
Yeah.
really wanted to get them in there. They were a perfect fit.
Yeah, the ones that we're acquiring, it's 14 beds, but they're fully
Yeah.
it's full occupancy.
Nice.
But there are five hospice patients there.
Oh,
So
yeah, and seeing it happens, you never
yeah.
know.
Yeah, so that's the
I mean,
thing.
you could go from being full to having, three or
Like,
four
like half
available
gone.
available. I know. like that.
Yeah.
And problems happen. I mean, as well as I do, you can't
Mhm.
we can do a lot of things to make an environment as safe as possible for somebody, but falls happen,
Mhm.
and somebody has to go out to the hospital, or be in skilled nursing, or they need a higher level of care, or whatever the case may be. That can all change with one little fall.
Mhm.
And
Do you do placements for hospice? I don't know why I keep thinking you do hospice for some reason, but do you do
I
placements?
do some, I refer, no. So in the placement world, obviously when I place somebody at your facility, you're going to pay me a fee
Mhm.
for that placement. Um, when I If I refer a family to skilled nursing or rehab or hospice or something like that, Medicare guidelines do not allow for referral fees to be paid.
Okay, so that's
So for me, it's just really part of the I have this knowledge, I'm going to share it with you kind of mentality.
okay.
Do good and good will follow.
Mhm.
We do a lot of that. A lot of the physicians that we work with will send us referrals over, and really all they're looking for is a home care company or and some placement companies choose to contract with home care companies because that's private pay. We don't do that. We partner with them.
Mhm.
I get a lot of referrals from them, and I think it all works out in the wash.
Mhm.
But I would rather just stick to actual placements and use that as a resource for families that aren't quite ready for that yet. I always say I'm in it for the long haul, and I am. Um, if for some reason, down the road they do home care for 2 years, and down the road they call me, and I've had this happen. They call me and they say, "Are you still doing placement?" Because I think we're at that point now where home is not going to work out anymore. Absolutely, I told you I'd be here. I'm here.
Mhm.
So and then I help them with the placement, and that's okay. You know, um,
Awesome. That's awesome. Like kind of like the whole continuum of, like
that's
health,
correct.
you know?
That's right. We're looking for, and that's when we talk to doctors a lot. We talk about, the outcome. We're looking for the best possible outcome for their patients. And
Mhm.
if we're part of that continuum of care, if we're helping that continuum of care, that's what we want to do. That's
Mhm.
that's the little niche that's our little corner that spoke about. We're off in that little corner, but we can have, big impact from that corner. And that's our goal. And everybody wins in that, because these, physicians and hospitals and rehabs and everybody's really struggling with this new environment of outcome-based medicine, and how it's very different than the, fee for service that we've seen in the past.
Hmm.
And the outcomes, the doctors are starting now. They're starting to see a lot of impact to their quality star ratings and things of that nature. If we can continue to help in that realm, we're just making it easier for them to
Hmm.
be in practice and take care of their patients.
That's excellent. That's
Yeah.
excellent. Well, Amanda, thank you so much. Like,
Yeah.
how do I reach you, or what is the best way to reach you, either as a family member that needs placement
Mhm.
or an assisted living facility that needs patients?
Yeah.
Like, how do we reach you? What's the best way?
So, I mean, my phone number, just call me. It's 832-465-7845. I answer my phone all the time.
I'll put that in the
Um,
phone. Yeah, for sure.
and my email address, which I know you have as well. So, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
My email address, I know you have, so you can put that in the notes as well. But my website is www.helpformyparents, and parents has an S on the end.com. And there's a lot of information out there. I write blogs all the time.
Mhm.
I'm trying to, I'm working a lot on, I kind of a little, I'll give you a little tickler about something I'm working on. I'm real focused right now on, because not everybody wants placement right away. And
Mhm.
I talk to families all the time that either they're making the choice for placement, or they can't afford to place mom. It's not going to happen. There's no possible way. And they don't want to go the Medicaid route at all. But they're seeing, you know, residual um, behaviors out of their loved ones, out of boredom and anxiety, and which then lays guilt on that that adult child that's probably trying, or the spouse that's trying to take care of this person at home. So we've been working on we're going to roll out something very kind of unique but not unique. I guess is the right way to say it. But I'll come back on a different podcast. We'll talk more about that, because we're not
Yeah, I'm
quite there yet.
excited. For
We're not
sure. For
quite
sure.
there. I'm talking about it.
Whenever you're
But
ready,
yeah,
we want to be
absolutely.
there.
Absolutely. But there's so many things that we can offer families. So I try to keep up with what's going on in the news, in research and things like that. I offer on I have a Facebook page. I have an Instagram page. Also
What's
help.
your Facebook? Can you tell us your Facebook?
Yeah, it's Help for My Parents.
Okay. Oh, and
So
it's the same thing
yep,
for the Instagram,
yep,
Health and
yep.
Appearance.
And same thing for Instagram. Um, and we're trying to really bring forward some of the great things that are happening in research right now, because it's pretty remarkable. About a year ago, I got a really great opportunity to interview one of the leading researchers here in Houston. His name is Dr. Paul Schultz, with UT Med, down in the Med Center with McGovern Medical School. And fascinating things he was telling me. And now here we are a year later, and I'm starting to see some of this stuff come out in the news. It's like, oh my gosh, this is what he was talking about.
That's amazing.
So it's really interesting, and some of the things that have been happening with celebrities, and so forth, that are, like Michael J. Fox and Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, yes.
Yeah, they are doing such a huge service to the audiences that they have by bringing forward what's going on with them, because they've been very upfront about it.
Mhm.
And I think that's so important. So we've tried to stay up on top of some of those kind of things, and we'll issue a blog here and there. But, one of the most recent blogs I wrote was about multisensory environments and why they're important for people with dementia. And
Mhm.
then as soon as I did that, there was some research that came out right afterwards. I was like, okay, well, that was good timing. So
That's
my website
excellent.
does have a lot of blogs, try to be real helpful to that family caregiver that's struggling, give them, how to manage sundowning, things of that nature,
Mhm.
um, there's just I think there's probably in the last 2 years, I've probably written over 70 blogs. So there's
That's really good because that's one that's the things that people fear, and you're
yeah,
giving them knowledge to kind of handle that fear and
yes,
how to overcome that fear. So that's really
yes.
good work you're doing. That's
I'm trying. I'm
yeah,
trying.
thank you
I'm
so much for
trying. I don't feel like there were many times when my mom had this disease and I would go, why am I going through this?
Mhm.
Why do I have to go through this? Why is this my life?
Mhm.
And not every time in life do you get the opportunity to find those whys, at least not very quickly. Um, and I feel like everything that I've done for the last 18 years or 16 years brought me to the point of where I am right now, running this
Mhm.
business and doing this for families in the way I'm doing it. And I don't know if this is how everybody does it. I mean, people will say, "Well, how many referrals did you have last month?" I have no idea if it's a good number or a bad number, but it's good for us. I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah, for
So,
sure.
that's okay.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks so much. I definitely will be reaching out to you
I
for.
am so excited. I can't wait to visit your building when you get it up and operating.
Yeah, I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
to
You'll
invite
have to do an
everybody.
open house of some kind.
Yeah, so our thing is whenever we do acquire the building, we're gonna do an open house that same weekend just to kind of let the family know who we are, and we're
Yeah.
gonna invite you know basically everybody that I've interviewed on the podcast, I guess.
Nice. Yay.
It's been interesting. Like, a lot of the people have been local, like Sean
Oh,
met me
good. Oh,
local,
yeah,
and
Sean. Yeah.
so I was like, oh man, we're all together. Let's just hang out, one of
What?
these days.
I know. Well, we'll all just have to have a pod meeting.
Yeah, I know.
Carl's pod meeting.
Let's call it the assisted living facility podcast party.
Podcast party. I like it.
Well, thank you, Miss Amanda. I appreciate
Yeah,
your
it was nice
time.
meeting you.
Nice meeting you, and just just keep up the amazing work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. You too.
It's really it's good to see that. I like to meet like genuine and caring people like yourself. That's there's some good people out there, and I like that. So
Yeah, I feel I have the same sentiment. Thank you.
awesome, awesome. Thank you, Amanda.
All
Take care.
right, bye.
Bye.